So we talked about that one of the biggest challenges of a read revenue model is to give your audience a clear reason to support you. Basically telling audiences, okay, so this is us, this is how we are helping you, and here is how you can support what we're doing. We talked about value proposition and how everything is, coming from that you have a clearly stated value proposition that everyone within the newsroom knows, and from there, your mission statement comes. From there, you will be thinking about your North Star. We also mentioned North Star, so that's something which you strive for. It's like almost like a goal for your newsroom, and not just the newsroom. You can have North Star for a project you're developing. So we talked about, some of you said you are thinking about starting a new podcast. So a North Star can be reaching 10,000 listeners. And with that North Star, which you set for yourself, which is an achievable metric, you're going to be building steps. How do you get from 0 to 10,000? So we talked about, maybe you in the first step will be you'll tell all your friends. Second will be you'll set up a social media account. Maybe you will add a newsletter to that, and so on. In terms of the newsroom, we also talked about branding, how a brand is almost like a reputation that you're developing. It's a way how others are seeing you, or basically how do you want them to see. And brands are very tightly connected with the trust. So there's countless research which says that trust is at the heart of any brand consumer relationship. So basically, if you are building a brand, you're also trying to achieve and build this trust with your audiences. In the second part, yesterday we talked about audio and podcasting. I have showed you some of the tools that can be used when you're here, when you're trying to develop your audio strategy. So we talked about setting up a podcast for free. There is this nice tool which is called Anchor.fm, where you can for free host your podcast. You can edit the podcast also there. You can record it on a mobile app. Also, we mentioned the Beyond Words platform, where you can generate a text-to-speech, basically an auto-generated audio for your website. So, for example, if you're visiting Wall Street Journal or Washington Post, you will have always the option to also listen to that article. And those newsrooms are doing that because they're building habits with their audiences. They're trying to get them back. And with audio on their website, they see people spend more time and they are coming back more often. Also, I mentioned the Headliner app, which can turn your audio into video. We also mentioned that when you're building or trying to build a distribution strategy or marketing strategy for your podcast, YouTube is an important tool for that, a piece of the puzzle. YouTube is a big discovery platform, not only for video, but also for audio. And to get your audio podcast there, you need to turn it into a video. And with Headliner, you can do that for free with like just a few clicks. We also mentioned live audio, but I'll just leave it there. And then we had our guest speaker, Jana from Deník SME, who told us how they built a successful daily news podcast and basically their whole podcasting strategy from there. Today, we'll be talking about the digital newsroom transformation. As I said, Gwyn is here. Someone Someone is asking, I don't know how to create a podcast. Are you going to teach us? That part was actually yesterday. We have a little bit different topics today. But Jackie or Melissa, when will we be sending our recordings from yesterday?
Yes, I think
sometime next week, right?
it will be easier just to upload it to our website to avoid as well as your presentation. So we can share the link next week.
Everyone on this workshop and everyone who registered will get an email with all the resources, presentation. I'll do over the weekend a write-up with all the information included, and also there will be a recording of today's and yesterday's session. Okay, so digital newsroom transformation and newsletters. So there are, again, yesterday I talked about framework, right? Because there are, we will hear Gwyn talk about how they succeeded, right? And it will be useful for you, but it might not be the path for you. So like every newsroom is different, every journalist, or if you're an independent journalist and you're trying to build something for yourself, like a podcast and newsletter, everyone is going to have a little bit a different journey. But I mean, it's good to get inspired and see what helped others. It's not like a rule that it's not going to help you, but you should be aware that maybe there's something else that will be more helpful for you. One of the main ideas, I think, when it comes to digital newsroom transformation, but or anyway, like the newsroom transformation, is starting with this idea: the newsroom as a profit center. So that's obviously when we are speaking about for-profit newsrooms. Many minority media are non-profit newsrooms, but still you can find some sort of for-profit newsrooms there as well. But the idea is that when we're talking about the profit center, it basically says, okay, so what's the most valuable thing that you're doing? And it's your journalism. And if you start with this, then you will go and build up from there. So one of the frameworks, which is very popular and have been used by many local newsrooms in the United States and also in Europe, is this table stakes framework. Is basically dividing the steps. It's basically giving you, there are 7 steps you need to go through to achieve a transformation so that you can achieve your goals. The first part is audience creation, basically looking for audiences for your journalism. The second part is revenue, and the third part is how do you whether you're like looking for outside partners that can help you with your journalism, and also creating mini publisher teams. It's a little bit for bigger newsrooms where you can create like these little teams. They're almost like self-publishers, as like small little publishing houses within the whole ecosystem. Another framework, which is the Reader Revenue Toolkit from the American Press Institute. They're talking about the newsroom transformation from a little bit different way, and they will take you through the steps. How do you transform your newsroom? Here are the key ideas when I was part of a digital newsroom transformation. What really helped us. As we talked about yesterday, it was setting or like basically crafting a clear value proposition so that everyone knew what is that the newsroom is doing, and there were like no doubts about that. Also, as we were crafting our reader revenue business, we had to think about, okay, so what are going to be the supporter benefits? As we talked about yesterday, is there going to be one subscription tier? Are there going to multiple subscription tiers? And so, okay, so if you're going to have a premium subscription, what it's going to mean? It's going to be maybe your website without ads. You'll have a plus subscription that you can give to someone and things like this. And also very, very important, everyone is briefed on your North Star. So what is that you're trying to achieve? So for if you look, so there are some big organizations which famously will tell the whole world what is their North Star. So for example, a couple of years back, Financial Times said our North Star is that we're going to reach 1 million subscribers. And everyone knew that. It's also like you're telling the public as if giving them a reason to root for you, but also putting some kind of pressure on yourself that you're going to achieve that goal. And because everyone knew that, it also made the decision making within the company much easier. Anytime you're going to have a discussion and there are going to be two sides, the only thing you need is to ask yourself, okay, so which of these two ways are we going to achieve our North Star quicker, or how are we going to achieve it better? And it's really like a guiding star as it is like in real life. So another thing, the best organizations are like a seamless organism, right? So there are no silos between editorial, technology, business. It doesn't mean that journalists are doing business. It's about communication. So it's not about these teams which are divided. Famously, news organizations. So once I visited Axel Springer in Germany, and their headquarters is this high building, and then they have like editorials on. They had editorials on several floors. Then the marketing and the business side was on another floor, and they said like it wasn't working because it was just like so siloed, not just in terms of how people were thinking about who do they talk to, but also in terms of it was a completely different floor. Also, creating a data-inspired organization is a important thing. I'll go into the data part in a minute, but basically there's this term newsrooms are using when transforming. They're using this term called data democratization. So it used to be that all the data like KPIs, what's the reader revenue, what are all these like CLV, customer lifetime value, and all these things like how many subscriptions did we sell yesterday. This was thing that the managers kept to themselves, and they didn't tell the newsroom. They were just telling them, okay, just do your journalism. You don't have to care for this. I'm of that mind, and maybe we can discuss with Gwyn later on, that it's important for everyone to get access to all this information, to all this data within the newsroom. When they are not even, they don't have to ask for it. Like there should be a place. So like if I wanna quickly check how many subscriptions did my newsroom, how many like conversions to subscriptions there were last month, I should be able to check it out without asking for permission from someone. And also the same goes like, okay, where's the traffic coming from for my articles? Where are my readers coming from, subscribers, and so on. When we did this with our newsroom, one of the most helpful things that there was for us was creating dashboards using Google's Data Studio. So it's a simple tool where you can create quickly dashboards. The good thing is there already is like a gallery which you can just like go in and you can find all kinds of analytics dashboards that you can just connect to your account, and you know, you simply have a dashboard. I mean, you can create your own, but it's always if you don't have a data person, it's just going to take you a lot of time. But there are some really nice and ready reports ready in this gallery. But what I'm trying to say is that it's available for everyone. So it's basically a secret link, but there is a place where these links live, and everyone from the organization has access. So anytime anyone wants to look at things like what's the performance of articles, how many active subscribers there are, how many new conversions, where are the conversions coming from, they'll just click the link and they can see the data for themselves. It's still not perfect. It could be better. There are like still like too many dashboards that my newsroom has, and in my opinion, there should be just like ideally one where there's like the most important data, and then obviously you will never have just one dashboard, but like a master dashboard with the important data for the most people that will get them satisfied. Any questions at this point? I'm sorry, I went a little bit.
So is there a link to this? Like this is a tool, is it, that you use to?
Yeah, so sorry. So this is, I'll paste the link in the chat. So it's a Google tool. So if you have a Google account, you'll just this is a gallery. So it's like what kind of data studio reports are there, and some of the people they've created some of the dashboards. They basically open source them. These are as I'm looking at them. These are all made by the data studio team, like by Google, but there are other reports from others. Usually there are marketing and analytic focused, but if you're looking for something like newsroom specific, you can find a good, let's say like a starting point, and then you're going to change it around a little bit. But it's really easy for anyone to set up, and it's free to use for anyone. Speaking about the shift from traditional to digital business, the biggest mistake many managers are still doing at this moment when they're trying to change something within the newsroom. Doesn't have to be like it can be just a simple workflow. It's usually like the first thing is, okay, like let's start doing also this. So basically they're adding more work, not just to journalists, but to editors and so one of the things based on the table stakes framework, one of the advices is stop doing things. So in order to change something or in order to do something new, look at what you're doing, think about those things, what is not working, stop doing them, and then you can go and do something new and experiment. Doesn't mean that the new thing is going to work right away, but not to discourage people, like don't give them more work. And so what are some of the examples newsrooms stopped doing? So one of the most popular ones, and I'm still coming across different newsrooms and journalists who are almost like slaves to this idea, is that we need more content, we need more articles, we need to produce like more journalism. And the question isn't more journalism, the question is better journalism. And in order to do better journalism, you have to do less of it, because there's just like some point where like in which you can do good journalism. So popular example, The Guardian has cut the number of articles they publish. It was 3 or 4 years ago. They cut like 30% of the articles they were publishing. They looked at the numbers, all the numbers, and they just draw a point like, okay, so any article that has been below, I don't know, 10,000 page views, it is not worth producing, or like people probably not care. What was the result was that suddenly all the other articles they were producing had higher page views, they were more read, people spent more time on that, and actually they gained more members because they were producing the quality journalism. So for example, what my newsroom did was we stopped publishing press releases. So when we looked at how much articles do we publish a day, it was around 500. Now it's around 350 or something like that. So basically what we did, like we cut down the number of press releases. And it's not like press releases from the company, it's press releases from news agencies. But how news agencies work is they're employing journalists, and they basically, usually their contract is, okay, you have to produce 2 news articles a day. I mean, in the news agency. So that also means they're going to produce a lot of shitty articles. I'm sorry for that. Maybe there are news agencies which are better than those in Slovakia, but usually that's the point. That's not the case. And so with this more, what happened actually, again, the average page views of the article rose, the average time spent rose, and the important articles that were like our original reporting suddenly got more space. Like you didn't have to change a lot of articles on the homepage, which is the biggest funnel, and suddenly more people can see. And the result was also we were getting more subscriptions. Another thing newsrooms usually do is, so as I talked about dashboards, some of the newsrooms, and this is a curse for medium-sized and bigger newsrooms, is some of the media managers are super obsessed with dashboards, and there are like a lot of dashboards, and in order to feed those dashboards, you need to like have your editors and product people feed data in those dashboards, and in many cases it's just not making sense. So for example, if you look at Nordic publishers who are really good in conversions, basically they usually have like one number they're looking at, which tells them like, is this a good day, is this a bad day, or is this a good article in terms of conversions or not. Another thing, and I hope Gwyn will talk about this, is thinking more about the audiences that you're trying to do your journalism for. So obviously you're like one news outlet and have like one big audience, but within that audience there are like small communities. They care for different things. So it can be sports, it can be food, it can be families, it can be travel, it can be cooking, and so on. So if you find these small audiences, it can you can much better focus your journalism. And also, as we talked about in the beginning, digital means constant change. So one day you're focusing on Instagram, next day you have to think about TikTok, and so on. So I'm going to let Gwyn speak. Just to summarize, if you're not sure about it, like in every transformation, there's good to run a pilot program. If you are part of a big newsroom, usually it's about choosing like a small set of people, like let's say You will choose the foreign desk, or you will choose the culture desk, who will go through the transformation first. You will learn what you did good, what you did bad, and then you can apply it to the whole organization. Again, as I said, does everyone know what is your goal? Really clearly stating it, data democratization, and again, do you have an analyst? Like it's one of the things that's talked about a lot. Like we talk about data, but in the end, who's going to be responsible for all the data? So the role is the role of a data analyst. And I attended a masterclass in reader revenue a few months ago, and one of the lecturers said, so when your newsroom doesn't have a data analyst and you're thinking about hiring new journalists or editors, don't do that. Hire a data analyst and it will make wonders for you. Obviously, depends when you're looking to deepen your reader revenue program and so on. And obviously, the last thing I wanted to say, create habits. Engage readers, don't go away from you. There are newsletters, podcasts we talked about yesterday, newsletters we will talk about in half an hour. Games are big, online puzzles, recipes, also premium memberships with like some extra benefits that will tie your readers to you. And with that, I'll give the floor to Gwyn, or if there are any questions, let me know.
Can I just also welcome Vicent Patel, who's joined. I think I saw. Yeah. So, and just so everybody knows the structure, so we'll have Gwyn Nissen as our guest speaker, our expert speaker up next. And Gwyn is the editor-in-chief of the Der Nordschleswiger, and of course led the digital transformation from a print to digital. And then we'll come back and David will talk, give us an introduction to newsletters and how to use those to build reader revenues. And then we'll go to Vicent Patel, who's joining us as our second guest speaker from VilaWeb. And Vicent has a long career in journalism and has built a very successful membership news organisation, and I think he's quite famous as one of the pioneers in really starting that model. So just to let you know, welcome Vicent, and we'll come back to you and over to you, Gwyn.
Thank you. We've fetched quite a lot of inspiration from Vicent and from VilaWeb, so you're correct on that. Very experienced and knows quite a lot. So I'm looking forward to hearing that as well and seeing Vicent again. I'll just share my just to give you a so that you know where we are. There we are. Let's have a look, because then I can just give you the Google Maps just to show you this is Denmark, and when we zoom in, this is sort of the area we're in, the southern part of Denmark. This is Germany down here, so and this is the border. So that's where we are. There are about 250,000 people living here, and around 10 to 15,000 of them are German minority and German speaking. And those are the guys we make our website for. So that's sort of just to give you a picture of what we are. And back to myself. Oops.
Yeah, I think we had a problem with the screen sharing there.
Never mind. I was just showing. Okay. I'm live again. Okay.
We were seeing you all the time. So
you were seeing me. Okay.
Which is not that bad. It just.
I was just showing Denmark and showing that we're in the southern part of Denmark. So you'll have to take out a map, Google Maps later on, and see it for yourself. I don't know how many of you are actually in the situation that you're a newspaper and have to go through a digital transition, but that's what I'm going to talk about. And there might be, as David said, there might be points that that you can take back home for you. Just a little about my background. I started with Den Schleswig when I was 19, and after 5 years left for a larger majority newspaper where I was for 21 years. And it's today the second largest print media outlet in Denmark, whilst we at Den Schleswig for years have been the smallest media outlet in Denmark at all. And then eventually I returned to Den Schleswig 8 years ago. The task at that time was to go all digital within a few years. When I was asked, I said it would probably last, we'd use another 5 to 7 years. That was without having a plan at that time. But we actually hit these years, making the decision after 5 years. We still had a newspaper at that time, and then implementing it after 7 years. Last year in February, we went all digital. We have a bi-weekly newspaper for seniors, which we print in a few hundred, circulation of a few hundred. And that is for people that aren't digital at all. It's sort of compensation that we had, but I'll come back to that. What you cannot learn from me, but you have to listen when Vicent tells you about this, we don't have a business plan. We are funded from the German state and from the Danish state. We actually receive 2.6 million euro every year. So that's really a luxury situation we're in. But as David says, in some kind of way, our editorial staff, we're still a profit center because it's about being read. It's not about revenue, but it's about being read, about people actually reading your articles. Doesn't make sense that you make the best journalism if nobody reads what you actually write about. Even though you might not be funded in the same way as we are, I think it's still worth for newspaper. And if you have newspaper editor friends, just tell them this. It does make sense to have a look at your expenses for printing, for distribution, for employees that have had to manage all of these things. So actually, by laying off 5 members of our staff, we could keep all our journalists. And it's hard to say, but we're not there to sort of make sure that everybody has work at Den Schleswig. We're primarily there to make sure that our readers get the right journalism. So we did lay off 5 members of the staff, and use more or less all our money on journalism, and see what you can do with that. So that's sort of the first learning point, is really getting everything you don't need, as David said as well, get that out of the way and focus. The second learning point, and Vicent will know that, is that when you're free of print cost and distribution, which he's never had, it's not free to publish in the internet. It's even though you have a web page, you'll need new tools. You'll be able to have free tools, but as you go along, there are also, and we have a newsroom of around 20 journalists. You need more expensive tools. We've got a planning system called DeskNet, which we just wouldn't be able to do without, but that's suddenly 13,000 euros a year to have a planning system and things like that. So even though there are some costs that you don't have as a newspaper, you're going to have new costs on the internet. Third learning point is no, it's not the same to publish newspaper as it is to publish online. Obviously, you still need good journalists, writers, and editors, but the workflow changes with the possibilities that you have online. And the expectations from your readers also change. If you go back to the newspaper days, you could go to a meeting on a Friday evening, but you wouldn't write the story before you came back to work on Monday, for example, for the Tuesday's newspaper. Today, your readers will want these stories Friday after the meeting. And also stories evolve. I think again, Vicent and VilaWeb during the crisis in Catalonia, you really had stories evolving and unfolding. As a newspaper journalist, you're used to collecting all information and then you write your article. Online, you may unfold your story as it develops during the day, also meaning that the journalists sometimes don't write 2 or 3 stories, but actually just work on one story and one article. And as the day goes on, following up on the story, but then at the end of the day, actually picking everything up and making a new story. So it's sort of, things are changing all the time on many topics, especially these days as well in the Ukraine. And it just means you have the expectations of your users and readers is different than when it comes to newspaper. Which brings me to the next learning point is focus. We've had to focus much more on what we do, and even more, as you said, David, what we don't do. When you go on board digital, your users have other expectations. They don't expect that you have weather or television program as normal newspapers have, because there are apps that are better than you are on that point. So we had some of our readers, when we changed from newspaper to digital, say, where's the weather, where's the television program? We'd say, find an app for it, or use this app. There's no reason for us to have it. And also you have to check your sort of silos. When in a newspaper you'd have some things, several things on various pages, you'd have them around in various sections, and digital, your readers think in a different way, so you have to deliver things in a different way. Just as an example, we had every local section had their own birthdays and deaths and what's going to happen today. And digitally, it doesn't make sense. You don't want people to click into Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga, whatever, to see what's happening in Spain. You want to say Spain here, and then they'll find it. And so there were things we had. We knew in advance when we changed that we wanted to do in a different way. And there are quite a lot of things. We really had. Well, I'll be coming back to that. How the time aspect in this. Another focus point you mentioned, David, is using data, and we do that as well. As newspaper editors, we think we know what people want to read, and we just don't. Because none of the newspaper editors are going to use 10,000 euro to make a study on what do people actually read in our newspaper. The big newspapers, they might do it, but small newspapers, they don't want to use that kind of money. So they really don't have a clue what their readers read. Online, we just know. and working with data just makes it much easier to focus. Not only if you're doing the right things, but also if you're doing the things the right way. When using data, you might have important stories that we said, this is an important story, okay, but nobody read it. Why didn't they read it? Wasn't the headline wasn't good enough? Didn't we have it on our main page, or did it go through too fast? So there are very many learning points. I think Vicente can probably tell you how they work with it. But in this task of doing less things, doing the right things, concentrating on things, just an example was our sports editor went to the ice hockey semifinals, which is important. Semifinals just before the finals, this is important. So he traveled and worked that day for 11 hours for an away game in the semifinals, and 132 people read the article. Then it's actually quite easy to go in and have a discussion about how are we using our time. And that's what we're doing at the moment, is really trying to see, of course, if it's only clicks, we can write about sex and rock and roll and whatever, but that's not our goal. But even then, it's important to use the data and find out what you want to do with it. There is also, especially when you go into sort of reader groups which aren't so loud, the sports, for example, when you go into the front door of a digital news site, half of them simply won't go into the sports store. So you've lost half of your readers already there. But even then, you have to know, do you want to write about ice hockey, or do you want to concentrate on other things? So we're actually, and that's another learning point, is that we're a learning organization. When you're a newspaper, it's very static. You've had people working in this space of 50 times 70 centimeters. And the day you walk into this digital world, you find out you have to learn, you have to develop all the time. As you said, David, is it TikTok or is it whatever? You might not have to go the TikTok way, but you have to see what are people doing, how are they using it, are we going that way as well, or are we sticking to what we do? And there are so many.
Are you open to taking questions as you go?
Yes, I'm just I can take it. Is there one in the chat?
Julia has her hand up.
Yeah, I can't see. Why can't I see the hands up? But
go, Julia.
Yeah. I can also wait till the end.
That's okay. That's okay.
So my question regards the clicks and how to find the right balance between looking at the clicks, but still also looking at quality. For example, generally foreign policy or articles about foreign politics are less read than internal politics. I think it's a phenomenon that goes through all the media, big and regional and minority and majority media. But still the readers, they write us also that they always say it's good that you have foreign politics, and of course we need foreign politics, but still it's less read. So how can you decide, should we then not write about foreign politics? Or how can we decide by not just basing on the clicks, what other criteria can we base the fact on if it's important or not?
I think it's without it being clickbait. I think sometimes it's if you do 5 reasons why Russia invaded Ukraine. Yeah, these very simple things sometimes where people say, oh, okay, 5 things I can cope with 5 things. So it's also telling the readers here's some. This is sort of a piece of journalism that will give you some information, and it suggests also it's going to be short and precise and whatever. So I think it's and I think that's a thing that people learn, and that they get to know you, and we can see that these explainer things, when we do explainers, which are often long and detailed and whatever, we actually have more readers coming in because they know, okay, this now is where somebody's going to explain something to me. And that's when it's foreign policy. At the moment, there's a lot of explaining. Apart from that, I think you have to focus on what, and that's what very much of this is. What we do is we try to find our DNA. You used another word. You said the Northern Star, David. We talk about our DNA. What's our DNA? Some of the foreign policy stuff. Well, if the national paper makes it on the national television answer-ups, you don't need that. People will get that from somewhere else. But what's your DNA? What will give your readers exactly what they want and that they can't get anywhere else? That's what we use real much time and data on to just have a look and again, cut things away, make less articles. As David said, we do exactly that to be able to do the right things. I hope it answered some of. Yeah, as I said, we're a learning organization. At the point you go digital, there are so many things, new things coming up that you have to. You don't have to jump onto every train, but you at least have to know where's this train going and are we going that way as well. The problem is that many of us are small organizations or even just one or two people working on things, and that we had to during these or especially the last 2.5 years, we still had to produce a newspaper. We were turning everything into a digital organization, and we were doing strategy. With a very small organization, and David, at that point we gave people, our staff, more to do, but at the moment now we say you have to do less, but what you're doing is you have to do the right things in the right way. So better journalism is actually, and one of my colleagues said just last week, we can see that you've gone digital and have the focus on one area. What you're doing today is better than what you did before. So getting colleagues to say that is good. Let me just have what brings you to the next learning point is you're going to be digital. You're much closer to your readers digital than we have ever been at the newspaper. Often the users are critical, but they're also very helpful. As a newspaper, they'd always say, you got that wrong, blah, 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 blah. Here, I often get a mail or a telephone call from people saying, hey, about these new COVID rules, you write this erupts, but isn't it that way? Say, yeah, you're right. Thanks. And they actually help you develop your stories and help you have the facts right when there are things that you don't see. So that's been pretty good, getting that experience that you actually have your readers on your side and working with you and sort of thinking with you as well. Reach, we lost some readers as we went digital. The big advantage is that Denmark is completely digital. Even my father-in-law, he was 90 before he passed away. He made his home banking on his iPad, but he also read Der Nordschleswiger on his iPad when the newspaper stopped. And so the people are very digital in their heads in Denmark, but also the whole infrastructure. We've got 4 or 5G all over the place, and in the houses in this area where we live in the southern part of Denmark, we have fiber connections. So my colleagues south of the border in the northern part of Germany, they wouldn't be able to do the same as we have done because they aren't digital minded and they don't have the digital infrastructure. So this meant that that we kept very many of our old readers, and we got new readers from. That's the reason why we're doing it. We want the new families, the young families, as readers. But we have also got very many new readers from Germany looking into to Denmark. And the best thing of all, really, apart from our own minority readers, is that we have readers from the majority as well. We have Danes that would never have bought the German newspaper, the Der Nordschleswiger, but the barrier, the hurdle to jump into a Facebook feed or LinkedIn or Twitter, or just go in and have a look what has Nordschleswiger DK, what's on their news headlines today, is so much lower than it was buying a newspaper. So I have very many of my Danish connections saying, "Well, I read your homepage, your webpage every day," and that is, I think, the greatest value for the minority is actually that the majority reads in to our news. And it meant during this COVID period where we as a border media wrote about the situation on the border, that, and remember, we came from a circulation of 1,000 newspaper readers, that we on some of the best days had 30, 35, 45,000 users on our website. We've been quoted by the BBC and by Spiegel and all the Danish media during the last year where we've gone digital, because we've gone from this small paper newspaper in a local area to suddenly being national and in a way global, because when people looked for what's the situation in Denmark, they would actually sort of knock on our door. So can you in German television or in German media tell a little about how the situation is in Denmark now, where all the COVID rules are out of order? So the whole digital transition has given us it's given our colleagues as well, and we've gone from this little newspaper to feeling that we're much more important than we've ever been, and we've also got a journalist in Copenhagen now, which we didn't have before. So these things just mean that that there's focus on us as well, and the minority in a much better way than there has ever been. Jackie, I would write this, knock out the most mistakes, and I'd send this to you as well. So
right. That would be that'd be fabulous, and we can share that. We'll publish that, I think. Any questions? Over to you, David. If anyone, does anyone have any questions? We'll share the presentation. You go,
David. One question for Gwyn, if anyone else, if not anyone else. Are you doing either live events or live audio, like Zooms with your, like, is there a community building aspect to your journalism, or is that just not something that's in your agenda?
Yeah, Sam, we talked very short about podcasts as well. The problem is that we're very small. The community is fairly small. So when we actually say here, there's a question about the minority, yes, no, or I don't know. The minority as such is too small. And we feel that, so it gives you some, just doesn't make, again, what to do and what not to do. We've done various things where we just can see we've sort of made some live things, and there's just not enough audience to pick up at the
That's
moment.
okay. That's okay. We have two questions actually.
Yeah.
For you, Julia was first, and then Genoveva. So Julia, go with your question. Or there's no question from Julia?
Yeah, sorry. A question out of curiosity: how big is your community, like the minority community, and how many readers do you have?
Yeah, we're about 12, 15,000 German community in the southern part of Denmark, and we have something like at the moment during the COVID period we had a daily user number of 10 to 12,000, and then we had these days where there was important news and cross-border news where we'd go and have 25, 30, 45,000. At the moment we're at a level again where we have about 7,000 daily users, and they actually they come in fairly when they're in. Those again, that's data when they're on our site. They read about 3 news articles per time, and they're on our site 2.69 times a day. So we have quite loyal users. But
very
those,
impressive.
That's a high number for such a small community. So
it is. Yeah. But again, some of the users, and we can see that some of the users are from Germany, for example. They'll come in and they'll read 1 article, and some of our Danish readers, which are from our community, well, they'll come in and they'll read 4 or 5 articles. So we can see a different user usage of our site, depending on where they come from.
Very cool. We have a second question. Genoveva or Genoveva? Didn't mess it up too much. We can't hear you. Still no. Maybe check if you have the right input. Zoom sometimes does that. It will take the mic out from your headphones for some reason. I don't know.
All right in the chat as well.
All right in the chat, yeah.
But while you're still looking for the the microphone, I can say if there is, we've had some other minority media that we've had Zoom meetings with, just to go through with the experience we've had on how to work. That's a whole lecture by itself. So really, how you work this way through and getting the whole organization into this transition, which hasn't been easy. We've had the internal transition, but we've also have the external discussions. So we closed a newspaper, so we had very many people that weren't satisfied, and you'd have all this political discussion in the minority. So it was hard times. Nobody wanted to go digital, only us. But eventually, and at the moment, most people are, the people who just want their newspaper, they still want their newspaper, but the other guys are happy.
Okay, I'm still not seeing any questions in the chat. Anyone else with a we stand. Go on.
Hi, Owen. I think you're doing a terrific job moving your newspaper from a traditional newspaper to the new digital era, and especially in a very delicate and difficult moment with COVID, with all these things. What do you miss more about the past? What do you think the digital media cannot be good as it was the old newspaper? where is the flaws? Where is the things you think it's a pity I can't do this thing I did before?
If I could sort of turn the switch in the back of our users, because some of them have the feeling, the feeling of sitting in the morning with your newspaper and a cup of coffee, that the feeling you can't give them. And that's actually because I try to, when we have these discussions with people, where they say, when you read a newspaper, you get inspired and you see other things. And I say, haven't you been sitting online on a Wednesday evening just wanting to check something for 5 minutes, and then suddenly you've used 2.5 hours in the internet? There's nothing as inspiring as the as the internet. There's so much to go for. So that's one thing. It's this feeling, and then it's the feeling of when you've read the newspaper, people say, okay, I know everything now. I'm informed about everything. And obviously you're not, but they feel, the people, that because we've sort of given them this package, and when you read all this, you've read everything that's important. And that's something we get to know from our readers. And some of the things we look into, if we have, do we need to have sort of something where we say, here is the day in 3 minutes, or here is the most important news from this week or this day, things like that. But that would be curating the news that you have made in a new way, or giving it a new package, really. Some of it we have by doing, you're going to hear about it in a minute, newsletters. That's one way of saying, here is the 5 most important news that we've picked out for you today. Read this. But those 2 things.
Okay, I guess we deciphered the question which Genoveva wanted to ask. She's interested whether she's interested in the Roma community in Denmark, whether because she says that it's a vulnerable community everywhere, and if there's like a chance for them to acquire digital skills.
There's only the Roma community. We have connections to them because they are in the northern part of Germany. They are very invisible in Denmark, really. Where we do see them is in the capital, in Copenhagen. But as such, they're pretty invisible, and they aren't. In northern part of Germany, they are a little better organized than they are in Denmark, and they have a voice in the northern part of Germany. And the German, the Schleswig-Holstein government also has them with the Danish, German minority, the Frisian minority. They also have the Sinti and Roma within. I think when it comes to their digital skills, I think they are just as good as anyone's, because if you're a refugee or if you're a 90-year-old in Denmark, everybody will have a mobile phone, and that's all you need for digital skills.
Okay. Should we move on to the next part?
Thank you so much, Gwyn.
You can. Do people have my email address as well, Jackie, or do you send it out? Because I'll be glad to answer other questions later on or next week.
Okay. You can pop it in the chat now, or we'll send it later.
I can post it in the chat.
Okay.
And do both, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do a quick introduction into this next part, newsletters and why they're important, and then we will let Vicent present. Does this work for you, Vicent? Wonderful. Okay, let me share my screen again. So this is actually not a quote from me. It's a quote by Dan Oshinsky, who ran the newsletters at the New Yorker and BuzzFeed News. I did an interview with him like 2 years ago. A very smart guy. He's very much into newsletters. He has a great newsletter called Not a Newsletter, which he sends around with newsletter tips. I'll include the link in the chat in a moment. And basically he says newsletters are about building relationships with your readers. And specifically he says so smaller local newsrooms should start a daily newsletter. Again, because of the notion of building habits. So you see, like these 2 days, we're like again and again talking about the same things, like Win just mentioned, focus, North Star, your value proposition, and how do you serve your community with the best journalism possible. So not sure if you know, but last year newsletters turned 40 years old. So they are in their mid-age, as one would say. Basically, it's a common digital communication tool that almost everyone uses. I'm saying almost everyone because it turns out like young people hate newsletters. Like a few months ago, I was talking to the newsletter editor from Financial Times, and she said like they're trying to reach young readers, but maybe newsletters is not the way to go around. We talked about yesterday about podcasts. Podcasts might be a better way to read young audiences as newsletters, and they're in a way a little bit similar. So you subscribe to somewhere and you'll get it delivered to your preferred app or platform, depending on whether you read your newsletter or your emails in an app or if you go on Gmail or wherever. So basically everyone reads and writes email. As I said, newsletters are one of the best habit building tools. If you look at news sites, especially those who have reader revenue, you will see they all have newsletters, and not just one. They have many. So if you look at the big newspapers of the world, the Times, the Post, or even if you look in Europe, the German news sites or the French news sites, they have like dozens of newsletters that they have. They have daily, weekly, news-oriented, culture, sport newsletter, all sports newsletters. They usually operate like several sports newsletters and so on. Today, you can operate this whole content distribution like you can have just your newsroom on a platform like Substack or Ghost or let's say obviously WordPress. Many newsrooms are using WordPress, but it's a bit let's say not super easy to set up. But still, what I'm trying to say, like for some new news startups, the newsletter plus a podcast is all they need to build a news business. Also, sorry, I'm getting some questions. Oh yeah, just the emails. Also, when you're operating reader revenue, when someone subscribes to your newsletter, it's almost like a sign, like, oh, I want a deeper connection with you. So people are trusting you with their emails. It's quite a big thing. Like many news outlets don't realize this, but it's basically like the readers are putting their trust in you, that they're connecting with you and sharing their emails with you. So when thinking about starting a newsletter, it depends, like whether you work in a news website or whether you're independent writer, right? If you're an independent writer, you're most probably going to look at tools like, as I mentioned, Substack or Ghost, and I'll have a list of tools in one of the following slides. And basically you're thinking about, like, is it going to be weekly or daily? I know of many professionals who are doing a weekly newsletter just as a way to stay in contact with their audiences or their followers and so on. For news organization, I would say a daily newsletter is vital. So if you're putting out daily news on your website, I would say the rule should be you should have a daily newsletter. And I mean, we can discuss that with Vicent in a minute. What does he think about that? But that's my take on it. In terms of designing it, basically, it should look very much similar to what your website is looking. So you shouldn't have a newsletter which is like designed in a totally different way. So we talked about it yesterday. It's about this notion of building a brand, of building like one visual language that the readers, subscribers will recognize you, whether it's on your website or whether it's on social media or other platforms which are not your own. It's good to have a built-in funnel for your supporters, like possible future supporters. So basically, if you have a reader revenue, you're going to obviously include like subscribe to our publication newsletter or support us, or now we're running a donation campaign, or we're doing crowdfunding or whatever. Newsletter is a great way because you can deliver that link which takes those readers, those subscribers to the landing page where they can take action. Newsletters is also about meeting the readers where they are. Yes, good point. Thank you, Win. So here are some of the tools and newsletters platforms I like and I would recommend. So for example, if you're like if you're an independent journalist and you're thinking about starting a news site of your own, I would today, and if you're not operating in English language, I would probably go and choose Ghost, which is an open source. Basically, it's built on WordPress, but it's much easier to operate, and it has built-in reader revenue tools, so you can connect your bank account and everything via Stripe and collect memberships or subscriptions. I know of a journalist in Romania who is running a local newspaper on Substack. Substack is a startup in the US, and they operate a newsletter, blog, podcast platform, which is free for anyone to start. So if you go to substack.com, you can start a newsletter of your own. You don't have to pay anyone. And only when you start having paid subscribers, they say they will take 10%. So you don't need to pay anything until that. Then a very similar tool to Substack is Revi, which is actually based here in Europe. It was bought by Twitter last year, and it's very similar to Substack. It has a little bit less features than Substack, but it's better integrated into Twitter. So if you have a big Twitter community, it would make sense to set up a review. Obviously, one of the usual suspects is MailChimp. I'm sure everyone heard of MailChimp. So if you're trying to operate a big, let's say, or more sophisticated reader revenue, MailChimp will let you set up an onboarding program, a win-back program, basically setting up these automations which you can do in terms of like, okay, so you have a new subscribers, and you will send them automatically an email, welcome, these are your benefits as a subscriber, these are your benefits as a member. And there are others as this as well. Gwyn has a good point. There are two newsletter trends: generating traffic or giving all the content in the newsletter. Yes, that's right. I would say the trend is moving towards the second thing, giving all the content in the newsletter, and we can see this with all the reader revenue businesses in newspapers. They're moving, for example, to paid newsletters. So they say, oh, we are going to send you the whole article in your email, but only if you're a subscriber to our outlet. But also it's a good way to build habit if you want to send the whole content to the subscriber. Basically, you are telling them, like, in exchange for your email, which is the start of our relationship, we are going to be sharing the most important news with you. Let's say in terms when you're starting a daily newsletter, and the point is not to send like 10 links to someone, but to send something which is finite, something which they can consume within their email clients, within their email apps, and they will know. Some of the tips how you can sign up and get newsletter subscribers. Basically, the most basic one is like having a sign up widget on your homepage, in your article, or like doing these kind of pop-ups within your web page. Hopefully doing them not very aggressively, or you might have seen these button boxes where you open a web page and there is like a slide at the bottom where you can enter your email address. Obviously, some of the news sites, they use the registration walls. You might have seen this, for example, on The Guardian. They've recently put up a registration basically saying this article is for free, but in order to read it, you need to register. So basically they're telling you, like, give us your email and we will let you read on. And the news sites want your email because they want to start this relationship, which in the end will turn into you supporting that news site, that newspaper. Obviously, social media, referral programs, and cross promotion with other newsletter helps, or basically paid acquisitions. Here are some of the examples how newsletters can look in your inbox. The first example is from the Washington Post. They started, I think last year it was, this newsletter which is called The 7. They'll just every day they will
Did David just freeze? Yeah. You have to find him, Jackie or Milica.
Yeah, he's just. Let me just. Yeah.
What did you do to David?
Let me check. Okay.
David unsubscribed.
Somehow the call dropped. All right. He's just reconnecting.
he's back.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi decided to connect to a Wi-Fi that's
Yeah.
not working.
All right. Okay. Well, we're glad we didn't lose you. Go.
Okay, give me a minute. I'll finish this and I'll give the floor to Vicent. Okay. So here are just like some of the examples of how newsletters can look like. What you can do to make the newsletters a little bit more interactive is there's this really handy tool called Handy Polls, which with which you can create quizzes or polls for your newsletter, or obviously you should encourage replies to your newsletter. It's a habit building tool, but also the audiences should know there's a live person on the other end who's willing to communicate with you. For example, Substack, it has a threads tool, basically will send out a link to a question and others can comment on it, or you can use additional community-based social networks like Telegram groups, Twitter communities, or Discord servers. Actually, Discord servers are quite popular by younger generation. And what else? Newsletters, paid newsletters are on the rise. So so one of the ways. So for example, at my newsroom, we're running a newsletter like 50 newsletters, and of those 50 newsletters, 10 of them are paid newsletters. That means like only paid subscribers will get the whole content. Also, in terms of what we, for example, again, my own experience with our newsroom, what we see is the biggest conversion tool in terms of getting newsletter subscribers to become paying subscribers is a feature we just recently launched. It's called Follow, and basically readers can choose to follow individual writers, and if you follow a writer, you basically sign up to receive all their articles by email. And this can be activated both by subscribers, but also by non-subscribers. The difference is the subscribers will get the whole article. So they will get everything in the email, they can read it, there are no ads, anything. Now the non-subscribers who just registered users, they will get just the headline and the link to the website. Plus there is this small promo telling them, if you subscribe and become a paying subscriber, next time you will get the whole article delivered to you by email. And surprisingly or unsurprisingly, this is the best email conversion feature we see at the moment. And the last thing, here are some key metrics which you should look at when you're considering building a newsletter strategy. Obviously, use subscriber count, open rates, click-through rates, conversions rates. So how many of your readers turn into paying subscribers. This is a dashboard we built in Google's Data Studio. It's a dashboard which is showing us how our newsletters are doing. I had to black out some of the data, but basically some of the things we're looking at is how many new registration, how many new signups to the newsletters they have been in the past 30 days. The second number is how many overall newsletter subscribers do we have? Again, in the last 30 days, we are looking at two numbers: the average customer lifetime value of like newsletters subscribers, and we're comparing that to the average customer lifetime value of all the subscribers. Again, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, this first number of newsletter subscribers, their lifetime value is higher, and it's getting higher than the average of all our subscribers. And then we're basically looking at how many people are opening our newsletters. You can see these are the open rates. Almost all open rates are about 40%. So that's fairly healthy. Those are fairly healthy newsletters. Okay, and with that being said, I'll give the floor to Vicent. Oh, there is a question.
You have to unmute.
Hilal, you have to unmute.
Okay.
Again. Okay. No, just a second ago, there were a message from one of my colleagues here at Bilaweb, Jaume, is our director of strategy, but for any reason, he signed with my same name. So two people are using my name, both of Bilaweb. Nothing important. I will try to share my screen and so explain. When I started
sorry to interrupt. Is it possible to ask a question about the presentation we had? Sorry to interrupt your presentation. About the newsletters. No, I'm not mute, right? So how long do you think roughly they should be? Because some of the newsletters are received, they're super long. So many links are in there to click. Sometimes I'm not even bothered to read them. But when they're short or just, very easy to read, just if there is something important, I just go them. What would make a newsletter, let's say, more readable? Thank you.
I think the guests here today can answer this as well if they want to try. Basically, it's just like finding the right way to communicate with your audience. So Axios in US, they championed this bullet point newsletter. You can see Washington Post has adopted that last year. Most of the newsletters I see on the local level are rather shorter, and they're trying to like very densely communicate what's happening, because truth be told, there's like not many things to go deep on that level. The other thing is like if you're trying to send someone an essay via newsletter, you should write like the whole thing and send it. What do you think, Vicent?
Yes, answering this question, I think that you can think on your newsletter strategy outside your overall strategy. So when you have your readers, you have a number of readers, you need to understand what are they interested. And that the decision on how your newsletter will be depends very much on the interest of your readers. That's my opinion.
Wim, do you want to add something, Wim?
At the moment, I have joined a masterclass in Denmark. We're a group actually working with newsletters, and it's a science of its own, and there is no easy answer to your question. I'm very sorry. The best thing is really to try and find out where is your audience, what do you want. The good thing is you can make two kinds of newsletters. You could give some that want the long ones, and you can give bullets. That's the it's science. It's really tough. And also, how do you write? Do you have a personal style? Do you have there are loads of inputs from there are, and David, obviously you read some, you go on the net, there are some very wise people sharing their knowledge. I think one of the problems at the moment is you can't see the opening rates. I think Google has stopped showing, or whatever, or Outlook or whatever. It's about the GPDR,
I think.
Yeah. So, but there is a lot to fetch on the net.
Okay, back to you, Vicent.
Okay. I will try to share my screen if it is possible. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just answering the question from Hilal, you cannot do a newsletter strategy that doesn't fit with your overall strategy. So I will try to explain you very shortly our overall strategy and then go into the newsletter strategy. From a long time ago in VilaWeb, our main concern was to focus on what makes us different as a newspaper. And we decided that in the old media, competition was the most important thing. So everyone wants to have everything in their newspaper because they don't know why people is reading this newspaper or this another. But in the new media, we believe that you need to fill a space. You need to be very good on something. And after you are very good on something, you can build new things. But first, you need to be recognized as you are the good doing these things. So in the old media, that was this theory of catch-all, that you have foreign affairs, the weather, the sports, the local news, etc. We believe much more on focus. Which one is your focus? What do you do perfectly that is different to any other? In the old media was similar. All newspapers look the same. In the new media, it's different. In the old media, it's quantity. In the new media, it's quality. The things that you told before about The Guardian, for instance, dropping the number of stories. And all these things, very important thing is to be sustainable. You need to take control of your company, not only of the newspaper, but of your company, and take decisions on that. In our case, we focus on different things. First, we are a hard news newspaper, politics, culture, economy, not sports, which in Barcelona is almost incredible not having a sport, but we don't have sport, we don't have this kind of light stories about something, etc. Credibility, I'm sorry. Credibility, checking the stories once and once again. Quality, that means in our case means style, for instance, writing very well the articles, doing very well, very good videos, etc. The commitment to our community, which means values that the newspaper have, and this sense of creating a community. And in our particular case, this idea of being local, so paying attention at the same time very well to the Catalan affairs and to the global affairs. From this, we build 24 hours operations that, for instance, in the morning, we publish a nightly summary, what happened in the world while you were sleeping, breaking news a lot in the morning, some features at lunchtime, breaking news in the afternoon, and then we concentrate very much at the evening with videos, with newsletters, especially we'll speak about our newsletter strategy, and with all kind of community things. In part, that is because we decided to do this thing because we were looking. Our idea was that the newspaper must be paid, and we believe in this kind of journalism. But at the same time, we make an economic analysis that the people who wants to pay wants this kind of contents, And so we focus on these people. For instance, in comparison, BillAweb have less young people until 25 than the average of the internet, but have much more university degrees and college than the average of internet, because these people, they don't have any problem to pay for good content. We started the project of community paying in 2004, and we spent 10 years. During these 10 years, only 2,000 people commit to BillAweb. But all of a sudden, the numbers jump until the 22,000 we have today. And that was a collection of things. First was, in my opinion, when people realized that they were paying Netflix, they were paying Spotify, they were paying something more, well then, why not paying the newspaper? But then also, at least in our case, 3 big events that make our readership jump. One was the proclamation of independence in Catalonia, the repression from Spain that come along, then the coronavirus. The coronavirus, we have a lot of new subscribers coming because how we work on the coronavirus crisis. And the last weeks we have seen also a big jump because what we do in relation to the Ukrainian war. So that's the general approach, the newsletters approach, the same thing, old and new. The old paradigm, and by old mean website old paradigm, it was we need to have so much unique users on site. And our idea today is we need to have so much unique users on site or elsewhere, doesn't matter. The website is no longer the center of our universe. And according to that, in the past, the important thing was the URL that you go into billaweb.cat. Today, we think more on the brand. So the brand BillAweb is enough. If some people, for instance, we are doing a lot of video explanations of the Ukrainian war on YouTube, and people goes to YouTube and never come to BillAweb. Doesn't matter, because they are on our brand. They are inside our brand, and that's okay for us. In the old world, they try to have the things close. For instance, these paywalls, etc., and we believe in open. We don't think all people can access all our content. And the ones who are subscribers, membership, have some rights, but not over the content, because we believe the content must be open for all. And in the old world, advertising was the way people try to pay their websites. We believe on membership. We think that the future of newspapers is in membership, not in advertising. What we learn about our job with newsletters, the newsletters value, and David explained a lot of these things before. One is the letters reach the reader. You don't need to, sometimes you were thinking, oh, will they come or not? With the newsletter, that's out of question. The newsletter reaches the reader. That's important. Then the uniqueness. It's a relationship that goes from me to you. It's very unique. It's not I'm going to a website and looking for something, but this guy is sending a newsletter to me. I'm answering this newsletter. It's a very unique for everyone. When I asked Wayne about the feeling, we believe that with the newsletters, we can create some of this old newspaper feeling. I think Wayne said the coffee feeling. Okay, this thing can be created with the newsletter. We were trying to do it by other different things. For instance, creating a PDF version, etc., that failed. But with the newsletters, we reached this position, and I will show you later how this works, and it's very important for us. Also, because of the idea of edition, that someone before also asked about this thing. This idea that on the internet, news reach the people unbundled. You have one item from here, one item from here, one item from here, but there is no a coherent package of information. That idea of the old newspaper, that when you close the newspaper, you have you know everything. Okay, we believe this concept of edition, curating editions, is very important, and our newsletters are creating several different editions in order to make the reader to have this feeling that, okay, this is what I need to know. For instance, the most important newsletter for us is at night, and there is a lot of people that tell me, okay, then I can go to sleep. It's okay, I know everything I need to know. Then the question of mobile. Newsletter is especially useful on mobiles, on phones, because with very little effort, you can create a nice newsletter. And on the phones, it works very well. It's very interesting. And finally, something that has been important and was unexpected to us is the usability, and especially the bypassing the login, because login, when you have subscription, login is one of the worst things ever. You can create a lot of ways to log for the people to log, but they always forgot the password. They have some problems. They have something. With the newsletters, we are sending special URLs to the people. So the moment you get the newsletter as a subscriber, you don't need to log, because it logs automatically. And that helps a lot of people, as it's important for them. So if you want, I will tell you two examples that are very different newsletters and maybe can help to understand that. One is the night newspaper. This is the most important members-only newsletter in the day. And the second has been an extraordinarily successful newsletter we are doing. It's a daily report on coronavirus. And I will show you how we create these newsletters. For instance, the night newsletter. This is only for members, for membership. And in our case, you can read everything for free. But the members, the subscribers of VilaWeb, they get 10 p.m. at night, Mediterranean time, that in the Northern Europe could be 7, something like this. You know that with the Mediterraneans, for us, the night is much more longer than for you. Okay, 10 at night, which is normally when people finish the dinner. All subscribers get this newsletter, and this newsletter has several things. One is my editorial opinion, which is one of the big pieces of the day. Then all the other opinion articles of the day. Then they have that news, 5-6 news that are exclusive news, that we have interviews, reports, something that is not happening, but we are creating. And so they can read tonight the stories that all other people will read tomorrow. Then we have the picture of the day, a compilation of all the most important news of the day. So if they miss something, they have here very easy clicking. They have the stories of the day. Then we have the games. We are very successful with a game which is sort of the spelling bee of the New York Times in Catalan, and it works a lot. People is crazy playing all night, so they can play from the newsletter, and that is the case. This is only for subscribers, so they at 10 at night have a recap of all the events. and the most important things for tomorrow, and they go to sleep and happy and waiting for a better day. Then the coronavirus is a different thing. This is open for all. This has been truly important. A lot of people subscribe with us because the job we did doing this thing. And as David told, this great thing in the top say, if you're happy with us, please subscribe. And that was working a lot. And the structure of this coronavirus newsletter was first, what happened today, the most important things, what happened today. Then a very well-calculated country and world data. People was very obsessed on the data, so we create a very unstable way to understand how the coronavirus was evolving with the data. Then we have recommended articles from foreign press, mostly from in English, in French, in other languages, in Spanish. So you can, it was the newsroom selection of the day, which interesting articles you can reach. And then a section that was all the phones, all the official phones, websites, what to do if you feel sick, all this, let's say, I don't know how to say that, useful area of the day. So that was the two examples of how we work with newsletters, and then the values. First, for instance, our subscribers, the 22,000 subscribers, we have a reach, monthly reach unique users, 2 million unique users, something like this, 22,000 of them, they are subscribers. Well, among the subscribers, on average, all of them, they are subscribed to more than 2 newsletters. We have already 12 newsletters. We are trying to reach 30, but on average, the ones who are already subscribers, they at least have 2. We have a very high opening ratios, 40%, which in the industry is very good. And some of them, and in some moments, for instance, during the coronavirus crisis, the tough moments of the coronavirus crisis, we reacted very fast. The second day, we already have the newsletter for our new readers, and there was a period of time that we have seen opening ratios of 80s and 90%, which of course it was because everyone was very worried on what to think. But still, we have very high opening ratios. Thanks to the newsletters, we get to know personally the readers who might become subscribers. This is important. A reader is anonymous until you have mail, until you have his or her mail. When you have his or her mail, relationships change, because you are not talking to the masses, you are not talking to the empty space, you are talking to someone. And then you can begin using these funnels, you can begin to identify what is his, for instance, if someone loves very much the newsletter on the coronavirus and the economy of the day, well, you can imagine more or less who is this guy, or if someone loves very much the interviews newsletter or the opinion newsletters, you can begin to create a portrait, or which kind of people is this one, and how you can better serve to them and better reach to them. Some of our newsletters are in this case very important, because we have seen up to 60% of readers previously unknown to us signing for newsletters. For instance, we have a very young opinion journalist that has been a success among young people. That, if you remember, we were lower among the young people. And in this case, 60% of new readers that we assume they are young readers of his generation, that's gold. It's a gold mine for us, because it's absolutely new people that we can work with them with passion. You need passion to do it, but it's really important. And it's absolutely clear, and this has been proved over the months and the years, that those who receive the newsletter are more likely to subscribe to the newspaper. It took time. It is not automatic. It took time and a lot of time. And some people, for instance, say, well, you have said so many times that you want me to be a subscriber that it's okay. Let's do it. For instance, we have phone call operations asking people to subscribe, and that's a normal answer. But it is because you have been working all time this idea that in order to help us, you need to subscribe. And just to finish a couple of details, first about our subscription model, we have 2 tiers, 60 euros per year, 120 euros per year. All people can read all the content without being a subscriber. The subscriber is much more a statement of commitment with us. We believe that we are working for giving all the society the better information possible. So we cannot give better information to someone who pay that to someone who doesn't pay. But then what we do is to the subscription model also have some exclusive details. For instance, events, creating events, public events in several cities. We have 2 newsrooms, one in Barcelona, one in Valencia, and normally in both newsrooms there are events. They can access the archives. We have a very nice archive center, and they can go there. They can open their own blog. They have special newsletters only for people, etc. And just one final thing. If you now go to see VilaWeb, you will see it's very different from the newsletter you are watching, because what we do, we are changing the VilaWeb. Next week will be this VilaWeb, this new one. And it has been extremely difficult for us because we have been for 12 years on the old layout, etc. And we were extremely worried about what will happen when we change it. What we did was to use the newsletters to make the people comfortable with the new layout. For instance, 4 months ago, we started with the new layouts on the newsletters, then on the apps, and finally, next week, we will change the whole website. So newsletters are useful also, not only for information, but to create this sense of things that can help you to do better your job. So I'm stop sharing my screen and open to debate.
This was perfect. I love the design of the newsletters, I must say. It's very, very neat. How long have you worked on that?
Well, we started our first newsletter, the night newsletter, which is the most important one. It has been already for 10 years. But the new design and the increase of the newsletter so on is a project that it started especially with the coronavirus. When the coronavirus erupts, we created this newsletter, I think the second or the third day of being blocked at home. We started the newsletter, and the success of that newsletter, which was incredible, make us thinking that we need to invest very much on newsletters. So from 2 years ago, we are investing a lot on the newsletters, and it's one of the most fundamental new projects for us is to expand the newsletter with the podcast, also newsletter and podcast, because it's working very well. It's really, really interesting how it's working.
Do you have the number of how big of a funnel it is in terms of getting new subscribers?
No, I don't have it with me, but I can send you. I will ask.
No, it's okay. Just curious, because usually for media, I would say like your size is like a sizable, like in tens of percent. Like that's how many new subscribers are usually getting via newsletters.
It's one of the main sources for us. And we are experimenting with creating newsletters, very focused on things, trying to reach particular groups of our people. So it's, for us, is probably the most fundamental strategy today. And it's important, this idea of the edition. So the newsletters allow us to curate the 24-hour cycle and to give the readers something that they at least can have an idea of, okay, this is more or less the most important things. So we are trying to create this old idea of the newspaper, that you have something which is not unbundled, but that have a coherence on the product. And this is very important also for us.
Anyone else? Questions for Vicent?
Yeah.
Wow,
I have a question again.
Please.
If that's okay. I have a few questions though, but very short questions. Well, all presentations were great, but there is only one thing I'm struggling with. I find very difficult to update all these informations to freelancing. Like as a freelance journalist, you know, this sounds huge to me, like a newsroom, like you have a newspaper or a TV, that then everything is settled. You have journalists and editors and everything. Idea is in there. You probably have a potential newsletter receiver. So, but for a freelance journalist, for let's say for myself, how would I know who would be my reader first? Second, what would they need from me? Yeah, that's something I can deal with. That is what's my profession. But the third thing, like, how can I convince them that they need a newsletter from me, which is a very small audience? This was the question. And the second one, would it be a good idea for someone like myself to ask my potential newsletter receivers to involve to the newsletter? Like, let's say I'm going to say them once a month, we can use your quotes or comments on our newsletter, so you can read yourself, you know what I mean, to make them become a participant of the project. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Well, two answers on your two questions. One is what you have seen is the product of, in my case, 27 years working. But I started as a freelance. VilaWeb started as a freelance. Two persons, we decided to start a project that with 27 years later, it is what it is today. But everything starts with the fingers. I was doing HTML myself on the beginning back in '95. So I think one of the great questions that we have in our world today is that in the last before it was necessary to be very powerful to start any project. Today is very easy to start any project. And then my second answer, what it is important is to know where are you really good. I don't know. It is not relevant how big a thing is. It is relevant how unique you are. For instance, here in Barcelona, there is a huge community of Pakistani people, and they love cricket. And there were nothing on cricket. And one girl, a university student, started a newsletter and a website on cricket, explaining the local cricket teams in Catalonia and the global cricket. I don't know very much about cricket, but it has been really successful. But what makes she unique? She knows a lot about cricket. She can, with a little effort, because you don't need a 24-hour newsroom to follow this thing, with a little effort and spending basically her time, she was able to build something successful. And then people wanted to advertise in the newsletter, and then the cricket teams share the newsletter with all the families, and so on and so on. And she's building a very interesting operation. You don't need to create the New York Times every day, but you can find niche, a niche where you are unique and you are really good. And in my opinion, the first thing you need to know is to ask yourself, where are you really good? What is the question you are the best one in the world? And then jump into the water.
Green, do you want to go?
Yeah, well, basically, it's a company idea, and I agree in what Vicent says, and I especially digital. I just see, for example, as I said, this guy, he does master classes in newsletters in Denmark, and it's also, do you go after the masses, sort of? Do you go for many, or do you go after other companies? As we pay him about 1,300 euro to be in this masterclass, and if 10 guys do that, and he starts a new masterclass in half a year or whatever, so it's also finding out. It is finding out, and where's the money? What can you do? What are you good at, as Vicent says, and who wants to pay for it? Because you can be the best in the world, but if nobody knows it or nobody wants it, so if you made something about cricket in Denmark, you wouldn't have the success because nobody plays cricket in Denmark. So you also have to find out who actually wants to pay for it. And then I agree, if you are really good at it, people will find you. And then it's about also finding the forums where you can actually say, if this guy was in this forum, he'd say, well, okay, yeah, I actually do master classes in newsletters, and then he'd have 10 of you saying, okay, I want to join. So it's also finding out where to be, sort of connecting, having your network.
And there is something more. It's the defensive way of this. We have seen in our world how big digital companies are destroying our communities. Amazon, for instance, they are destroying the shopping structure of our communities. Sooner or later, there will be a big brand media that will try to do in media what Amazon is doing in shopping. So we will see, I don't know, New York Times in Danish and in 100 languages and reaching all houses all over the world. So our only defense against this thing is building a community that trusts us. And we have still today, we have time to do it. But if not, the Amazon monster will come for us also. It's impossible that doesn't happen, this kind of things. And so we need now to build a very strong structure of people that believe in us, because as a members of the community, this is the only thing that the Amazon media company will never be able to do, to this feeling that you are part of a community. Jackie.
Oh, yeah. Thanks very much, Vicent. That's really super interesting. Just can I, Hilal, one of the questions you asked is, like, as a freelancer, what do you do, you know, when you can create a newsletter or something? Well, from my discussions with a lot of the minority media, they're really looking to, in this digital transition, is how to find new audiences. So if you can actually build a network, a community around a newsletter, that, you know, as a freelancer for one of the minority media organizations, then that would be of tremendous value, I think, as well. And just, I mean, very briefly, because I know we're running out of over time, but I also had the experience. I started my own newsletter and I ran it for just over a year, publishing fortnightly about very niche, about media, new media ventures in the Asia Pacific region. And, you know, I learned a lot along that way. So I was writing longer stories, you know, interviews and profiles and publishing them on Medium. And then I thought I would use the newsletter as the distribution tool. But I learned very quickly that not many people actually went to Medium. Medium actually found its own audience for that, and the newsletter was its own audience. So that meant I had to think very quickly differently about the newsletter, and also how did I satisfy an audience like across the whole Asia Pacific region? So, you know, sort of thinking about breaking it then into a number of sections, something that would always be of interest to everyone, even if like the profile of the media organization, which may be in India, might not be of great interest to someone in Taiwan, but there would be something. So that's just my experience very briefly. Vicent, I wondered how valuable you have found the newsletters, because I know we had a discussion a while ago about, you know, in those early days of COVID, how important they were as a news gathering tool, and, you know, sort of like bringing that expertise into your audience.
For us, it's more and more important. We realize, especially from the moment we do this click of understanding that the newsletter at the same time is an edition. So we can create package of information that satisfy very much this problem that I think was David in the beginning, or Gwyn, that we don't have more this idea of the newspaper that we open and close. The connection between the newsletter reaching the people and the newsletter as an edition, it has been very successful for us, and it's extraordinarily important. So now we are, for instance, introducing we have a very good section of opinion. We have 2 people every day. With the new website, from the new website, all opinion could be its own newsletter. So if I love this guy or this woman, I will click, and that will come to the newsletter. You will receive the newsletter. There is always this discussion on you are losing unique users going to the website, but we are very sure, we are very confident that this is a very old-fashioned way to see the world. It is no longer so important how much people reach your website. It is much more people, how much people reach your brand, live into you, let's say your brand universe, and you convince them that they must pay sooner or later, because they are satisfied. There is 2 raised hands, I think.
I've got one of them to answer once more the question about how do I find out who my audience is. And Jackie, you talked about minority and minority media. I really think that some of the minority media, just like us, where we had 1,000 newspapers, or in Romania they might have 2,000 newspapers, the post is unreliable, and you have a huge country where you try to distribute a newspaper. That's a massive chance to reach out to very many people when we're talking minority, much more than the newspapers and even radio and television can, I think, in some of the, if I look at some of my colleagues in Eastern Europe that we have in Midas, which is an organization for media, minority media. So I think it's worth looking at where you can reach out as a minority media and really get hold of especially when people aren't. And in my area, if Denmark's so digitalized that they've left the newspapers a long time ago, but I have a small area. But if you're in a big area, it's obviously that's the way to look into to the future news for minorities.
Melissa?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to use this opportunity to learn something for myself. For example, I quite often have the situation that working with with people on like having training or a workshop or small event, people get excited and interested in what we are doing. And of course, as just I did now, I always post a link if you want to follow our work, to join our community, to get more information about future events, trainings. Subscribe to our newsletter, which I did, by the way, in chat, so you can do exactly that. But what do you think about the approach? Oh, thank you for attending events. It was great. We will put you on our newsletter list and make it easy for you to unsubscribe if you don't want to receive anymore. On one hand, we want to make it easy for them and to do the work to subscribe them. But on the other hand, is that a fair thing to do? Is that something that, what do you think about that as an approach to?
Sorry, I didn't understand well. The question is about.
Is it fair? Is it okay that assume that people, since they're interested and already engaged at the event, that you can tell them, oh, we will put you on our news and you unsubscribe if you don't want to follow anymore?
No, we don't like this thing because people, I think that people love a lot that you respect them, and so they must do the action by the positive action by themselves. You are asking them to do a negative action, that is unsubscribe, and that means probably they will not open the newsletter so often. And someday we will be so tired of you that they will unsubscribe, but that is creating a bad impression on your side to the people. So we don't think it's a good practice, this one.
Don't worry, I'm not going to do that after this workshop. I'm not going to put you on it. I'm just checking. Thank you.